My name is Yinping Jiao. I am an assistant professor from plant and soil science. I'm also part of the member of the IGCAS, Institute for Crop Abiotic Stress Tolerance. My current research focuses on identifying genes and sorghum germplasm to improve sorghum production and also apply them into breeding. For example, the low protein digestibility in sorghum seeds has been a limitation for the sorghum application in the human food and the animal feeding. So my group identified the new germplasm and the genes to increase the protein digestibility. And now we are using it for the breeding to create new varieties for the farmers to grow. So that's my research. So germplasm, gene identification, and then breeding. In my research career, I started with corn. And then about 12 years ago, I started to work on sorghum through a collaboration with the sorghum researchers here at Lubbock, Texas. I just enjoyed working with sorghum. And there are so many fascinating questions to answer in sorghum. So I think my motivation is I like what I do. Mm-hmm. When I started my research group at Texas Tech in 2020, there were indeed a lot of aspects I could work on in sorghum. But I can't work on everything. I started to think about what I should work on. I started my conversation with my sorghum collaborators and also the US sorghum checkoff here. And later, I decided I should work on something the sorghum industry really needs. So that's why I chose the sorghum growing quality to improve the value of the sorghum. So for the students, I try to also let them love sorghum like I do. So when they have passion, I believe they can be productive, they can be motivated. In my training, I train them not only the basic research skills, also their understanding or their knowledge about the sorghum production and the sorghum breeding. So that's why in my lab, we do both basic research and also applied research to collaborate with the sorghum industry. Mm-hmm. I'm very grateful for all my collaborators. And I just mentioned, before I joined the TTU, I already started a collaboration with the ARS sorghum people in Lubbock. So when I started my lab here, they still supported me a lot to start a new research group. And also my sorghum breeder collaborators, they can always tell me what breeding needs. And also the sorghum community is a very supportive group. There are monthly seminars. We can communicate the sorghum research. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now when I look back, probably the biggest challenge was at the beginning of my lab. So when I came to TTU in 2020, there was no large-scale sorghum research yet at the TTU. But TTU is very supportive on sorghum. So by now, finally, I have access to sorghum threshers and planters, and also the farm is improving the management. So I think now TTU is really a good place to do sorghum research. Mm-hmm. Excited by all my projects. But you ask for the most exciting project, I think is the silage sorghum breeding. I have a breeding degree, but I never conducted a real breeding project. Now here, I have the opportunity to do my own sorghum breeding. So I identified the high protein digestible sorghum germplasm. Now I'm using it to do the silage sorghum breeding to create the nutrition-enhanced sorghum to feed the cows. You know, the cows is a big industry in the West Texas. So I want to talk about genetics. I also teach genetics. What I want to say is sorghum has really high genetic diversity. And this genetic diversity is the pool for the sorghum improvement. So I hope people can understand sorghum is really awesome, and we have an untapped genetic diversity pool we can use to improve sorghum. Sorghum will play an even more important role in the human food, animal feed, and the energy.